And hopefully that works because last week, for some reason, the recording only recorded my video, or sorry, only recorded my audio. And for portions of this framework class, we need to be able to see. So hopefully y'all can see what I see now. Are y'all seeing week 12?
Yep.
Ooh,
Yeah, I see week 12. Yep.
perfect. I'm sending this link into the chat as well, so that if you all want to follow along, what's Simon telling us to do here? Install a horizontal beam using scaffolding to support diverse perspectives. I feel like I've seen that before, but um, let's get started with week 12. So this week we're continuing on with our focus on specific measurable module level objectives and how they relate to our outcomes, um, specific and measurable module level objectives that align with the course outcomes and support diverse student needs. Our alignment here, we're focusing on communication and for the skill standards, creating, evaluating, and modifying curriculum. And all right, 12? No, I think I have the wrong. Oh, yeah. I need to go in and adjust some of the badges because originally there was a missing week because of the outcomes and assessment slash in-service day. And we were gonna skip a week, but then we just went ahead and just added it in so it wouldn't be confusing. So um the result is that it's confusing because all of the badges are from the previous one. I'll work on trying to get all of that sorted out in the next week. Um, we're actually going to head over to the next part here. So as we move along, the standard 2.2, we last week looked at a couple more indicators from standard 1.1. The standard 2.2 is like I said, focus on the objective. And this is another standard week. So our assignment is going to be reflection based. There are a list of questions here that I think we can start to go through as we have this time here together. Um, any questions though before we dive in here to standard 2.2? Whether it's from last week or just anything outcomes and assessment related, or teaching and learning related. Okay, if there's no questions, then we can get started. So we've got the text here where it's talking about the difference between the outcomes and objectives. I would say the difference that I see is I don't know. I view the outcomes as those higher level course um, goals that you want to complete by the end of, or yeah, by the end of the course, and then the objectives are more like what you will be actually doing in each of the times, each of the lessons. So I think we sometimes call them, they as it says here, the outcomes and objectives sometimes interchangeable, but I would use objectives more like as it says here at the unit level, and then so I guess it would be like more specific than the course learning outcomes, which are done at the end. Alignment is important with objectives. So same as we talked about before, where you have the top level course-wide learning college-wide learning outcomes, down to your program, down to the course, and then this would be down to the objectives, those individual goals for the time that you have with your students, the time that you're meeting with them. And then objectives can be anything. I would say following the same kind of focus that we have with the outcomes, having it measurable, having it, kind of following that SMART framework, where SMART goals, for those who are familiar: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Now, you don't have to have all of these every time, but measurable, we covered the Bloom's taxonomy in the past couple of weeks. We were talking about that, and I think it was Tracy who gave that resource last time for the Bloom's taxonomy, that list of all the verbs that you can use. Those are all measurable verbs, so that you can actually see, you can assess whether learning is taking place, as opposed to something like understand, which we can't really assess understanding. The assignment, as I said here, is the reflection journal. And if you've done 2.1, which I'll bring that one up really quick. 2.1 is this one here, where you do a bunch of questions first and make a list of assumptions, and then look at the questions here based on that list. We're just going to use that same list. So if you've done that one already, you're good to go. Maybe bring that one up so that you can reference it when you go through the next questions. If you haven't done this one, then maybe start there, because this one was originally designed with all of those questions in it. Since we've already done it, I cut them out for this assignment, and I just wanted to focus on these ones. So I wanted to go through these with you all, and I was thinking that we could use this time to discuss them, and maybe y'all can get some ideas from each other about what you can put, get some inspiration. And so I'm just going to put them into the chat here. Maybe I'll just do 5 at a time. And then maybe we could just go in a roundtable discussion where we're talking about these things. So first question: what should your students be able to do at the end of each unit of learning? So I guess maybe pick a course, and we're looking at examples of, like I said, the objective of the lesson. And so maybe we can go through these and see if how aligned they are with your course learning outcomes, and then to see if that alignment continues up. And then also I would like to see if they have these how many of these SMART criteria they fall under. So I'll give you all some time to get that information together. And I'm going to look for that resource that Tracy put in last time. So I'm just going to stop share for a second and I'll look for those things. And then we can get started with our discussion. Okay, I got it up here. So this was the, for those of you that were not here last time, this is the Bloom's taxonomy, but in a little bit different version that you're used to seeing it. Usually we see it in that pyramid. We talked about this one, and there's a way and zoom in. Oh yeah, so we were kind of looking at these the keywords here and making sure that when we're creating our outcomes that we're using these. And then so for this week, looking at our objectives and making sure that they are including these as well. Snowy's here. Hello, Snowy. Thank you for joining us. We're going over
Hi, everyone.
we're going over objectives today. Standard 2.2 specific and measurable module objectives. So if you're interested in following along with the site, we're just going to go down this list here and kind of go over the instructors' objectives that they have in their for their modules and for their lessons, and see if they are aligned with their course learning outcomes, and then if they're using these the nice verbs here that are from Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah, sounds great plan.
So the questions, the first question here, if anybody is willing to hop off and share, what should your students be able to do at the end of each unit of learning? Maybe just give us some examples of what one of your courses, or a module from one of your courses, what the objectives look like in there.
Well, I am not going to be shy.
Please share.
Okay, but I actually had just emailed Snowy about this because I am trying, this is based on some student feedback over the last couple of years. I am creating a new class that's pulling out material from an already existing class because the students have said that they didn't feel like it was relevant in that class.
Mhm.
So I actually already have my module and my like assignment objectives, but I don't have course level objectives. So let's see, where was my spreadsheet with that? Oh, there it is. Sorry, was not prepared. Well, I mean, for example, I have them make this is towards the end of the program, so they're making a resume.
Nice. I love that.
So, gosh, I have way too many windows open.
I'll
I'm
stop
sorry.
sharing so it doesn't control any part of your screen.
So one of this is it's basically going to be an all online module that is or class while they're also in their clinical rotations, and I have them do, gosh, I am just a mess.
Take your time.
Okay.
Unless somebody else wants to jump in and has something ready to share. I think we have just some listeners in here today.
I cannot, I don't know where I put this.
Well, I'll while you're finding that stuff, I overheard based on one of the faculty members that uh, Jeff was working with that um, they had a course where a lot of the objectives and outcomes were focused on a certain material that is used in this uh, in a process. So very common in industry to use this material in this process. Um, and so in their syllabus and in the documentation in the class, it says we're going to use this material, and by the end of this course, you should be proficient in using this material. Now, for some reason or another, I think it related to simply moving the focus of that material to a later class.
Mm.
They still had all of the material that was referencing working with it. And so students were asking this instructor, we completed this course and it said that we're supposed to be using this material, but we didn't use it at all. And from the instructor perspective, they know their whole program and they know that, oh yeah, we're not doing that this course. They're going to be doing that later. But when the students take the course and they're reading through what they're going to be doing, if there's a disconnect, then it confuses the students, A, and also leads to disappointment because their expectation was they were going to do this thing that was promised in, the syllabus and throughout the course. And so they had to go in and, well, I don't think they've done it yet. They're in the process of rewriting those, reworking those, and then obviously if it's something at the course level outcome uh level, then they're going to need to take that to curriculum committee and explain that this is not going to be the focus until later on. And so we have to adjust that. And so I think it's good practice I mean, I'm hoping that everybody that's in this course that's working through their outcomes and objectives, I'm hoping that this is a good opportunity for you to make sure that what it says in the paper is what you're actually doing in the class. So,
Okay, so I did find my example. Well, an example that I'm going to go with.
all right, let's do it.
Okay, so this is a program level outcome. It's model effective communication with colleagues, healthcare professionals, and patients. And I have them do an assignment while they're in their rotation, where they are. There's some content that's delivered based on healthcare communication tools that are pretty standard industry wide. And then I have them look around their rotation site and make observations about the way different healthcare professionals are communicating.
Mhm.
And they write it's a discussion post where I say, think about a situation you've encountered during your rotations where there was a communication breakdown. Describe the situation, identify the barriers, and then suggest one of the communication tools that we were talking about as something that could have helped in this scenario. So that's the assignment.
Mhm.
But the objectives for the module on communication are explore barriers to effective communication among healthcare personnel, discuss potential impacts to patient care in if conflicts or disagreements go unresolved, and then communicate relevant information to other healthcare professionals using common communication tools. So what I'm missing is that course level outcome that sort of bridges, because this class would be, I mean, they do other communication style assignments and content along the way. And this would be like a mastery level towards the end of the program. I can put those objectives in the chat if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be. I was trying to
Type faster.
yeah, I got the transcript up and I'm like trying to copy and paste as the text is going up. Is this does this seem right?
Yeah, so
So
that model effective communication, that's one of the program level. Yeah. And then, yep,
and then these are the objectives of the individual lesson.
yes.
Okay. And what's missing is a CLO that kind of encompasses that, bridges the gap
Right.
between PLO and objectives. Okay. Let me take a minute here to think about it, and then I don't know if Snowy had to step out, but I know she's the expert in developing course learning outcomes. And also, I have them up here on the screen, so if anybody has any ideas. I like these ones. Oh, here, yeah, and this. So yeah, like I said, it's everything that you were saying. Okay, communicate. So real quick, I'll add this to the college-wide. I think the focus here is communication. And I'm not sure what level of blooms. We have the college-wide learning outcomes broken into 3 sections. It's a nice PLO. Do you this was just a question that I was having as you were discussing it. Are they is it a role play where you have like specific dialogue that they need to be saying that is like non-effective?
Um, so I do that when they're in class, kind of during the I mean, like I said, this is for a mastery, like what this would be like the mastery level of this object of this program learning objective or outcome.
Okay.
And so along the way after it's introduced, we do some role playing, but this is more getting like they're actually observing these situations in their rotation site. And so now I'm taking them out more of that safe environment that's in the classroom, and I want them to start using them in an actual healthcare setting. So at this point, we've passed the role play part, and they're in a healthcare setting.
Mm.
So stakes are a little higher there.
And I just don't understand I might not just understand it correctly. So in the healthcare setting, so they're working in the field. Is this like an internship or?
Yes,
Okay,
internship, yes.
gotcha. And so they're listening to the conversations that are happening and making mental notes or
Yeah,
physical notes about what they're hearing and the
yeah.
communication style that's happening.
Yep. And just and observing the impact that that has on the work environment or the patient. I mean, we are not in front of the patients, but it can delay if people, there's interpersonal conflict that slows things down, and then patients don't get treated as effectively or whatever.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's see here. I'm gonna bring up the blooms. And you said this is a mastery level course. So I'm immediately gonna look over onto this right side here. I'm gravitating towards analysis. But if somebody else has an idea of something else, maybe identify.
Mhm.
Have you given thought of where you feel like it would go for the CLS?
Yeah, yeah, I was kind of between the analysis and the synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, see.
Breakdown,
Oh, that's interesting.
like breaking down what they heard, but I don't know, maybe breakdown is more like taking a complex idea and making it simpler.
Yeah.
Semantics.
Hey Tracy, if I understand correctly, this is about communication, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I really love the first two course learning outcomes you shared with us, like identify the barriers, right?
Yeah.
Explore the barriers and discuss those impact to communication, right? On communication. So I'm thinking, since you are talking about in the lab, in the clinical field, so perhaps explain any procedures to the patients.
Mm,
But they're
yeah.
not explain I don't if I understand correctly, they're not explaining to the patient, they're
It's
hearing the
actually,
oh
yeah,
yeah.
this is more behavioral type of objectives, kind of more in the affective domain. I, I kind like, I mean, well, because I mean, can the course learning outcome be the same as the program learning outcome?
Oh, that's a good
I'm very,
question. What's your stance on that, Snowy? If it's if this
Well,
do you feel like these objectives are
in reality, or in lots of practice, we see the similar language in course learning outcomes as these program learning outcomes.
mhm.
Well, I definitely do not recommend this practice, right? Because we want to differentiate these skills. We want to specify the skills more clearly, more concisely, and more concrete and more measurable in the course.
Hmm.
So for this PLO, model effective communications, and I would like you to break down this effective communication.
Mhm. That's what
Like,
I was
what
thinking.
do you think are specific skills in order to model an effective communication? Because in your field, this communication is different from, for example, cosmetology, They're
Right.
more about, for example, consultation, right?
Mm.
Acknowledging faculty, sorry, so student, not students, sorry, the patients, not patients, the clients' needs, right? So for you, what do you see as the important components of effective communication? How do you define it? What are the key elements or the key skills? So that's why I say when going back to the course itself, like what courses do you think that you are focusing on these communication strategies or communication practices, and what do you have faculty have students do?
Okay. Like, okay, like along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because PLO
So,
is taught throughout these the curriculum, and now you are only talking about this clinical course, correct?
right.
So within this clinical course, what do you expect students to achieve in terms of the communication piece?
Yeah. So at this point, I expect them to choose effective communication. And I'm seeing
Mm.
that under that analyze
Yeah.
section. So like choose effective healthcare communication strategies when communicating in the clinical site.
To choose, then you need some information to make the decision, correct?
Right. And they've been, yeah, and that's the stuff that they've been getting along the way in the other courses is that information.
Great. Yeah, then you can definitely use this one
Okay. I
because you
like
have
that.
paved the way to this level.
Essentially, choose the right thing to say, or
Well, there's some standard, I mean, it's like like airline industry where there's kind of some standard communication protocols so that everybody knows what's happening. Um, and I mean, the most probably familiar is just the repeat back. I think and that's actually in I think airline industry too, where it's you tell someone to do something and they were like, please, like hand me this item, and they say, I'm handing you this item, and that's one of the things that we practice along the way. And so at this point, it should be ingrained to them that they need to do that. But that communication tool, I mean, repeat back, that's the name of the tool. So they should, if given a scenario, they would say, oh, we need to use repeat back in that situation.
Mm. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I hope that puts you in uh, a better place on how to put that CLO together. I'm gonna move on unless Derek wanted to say something. So
No, I think the question I was going to ask of Tracy was sort of answered in that this is so the objectives are she's shifting these objectives into this class, into the clinical class or yeah, internship type class. So she's just looking for a CLO to represent those objectives. It's not a class that's just focused on communication. It's part of a broader class. So yeah, I think. And the other thing that I was going to ask was, those objectives, which it makes sense, those objectives seem like they um, could be course learning outcomes depending on the focus of the course. But in this instance, it's just part of the course. So anyway, yeah, it's sort of to her question of could a PLO be similar? I think it's more likely that an objective, like a module objective, might possibly repeat as a CLO, just because a module objective, the module could be like a substantial part of the course. So it seemed to me that it could be a CLO in of itself. But anyway, yeah, I was just going to ask a clarifying question, but it sort of got answered along the way.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so if if we would like to continue with Tracy or Derek, if you have by any chance any examples of objectives that you have. The second question here, what behaviors do you expect to observe from students before, during, and after completing a learning unit? Does anybody have any examples of we're talking about observable, measurable, but then this is that before, during, and after stage. If I were to try to guess, I would say that before you would see how the students use the language or how they communicate before you instruct them about the proper ways that they communicate in industry. And then during, obviously, you would be watching them use that communication style. And then what would the after be? Just you did it. Marking, I guess this would maybe be the assessment component where you mark that they've used the correct communication style. If no one wants to talk about that, the next question here, how do your module or unit level objectives guide students toward achieving the course level outcomes?
I can comment on that. Right now, my modules, I have weekly modules, and in my weekly modules, I actually list the course learning outcomes that we addressed during that week.
Nice. I like that. It's transparent for the student. They see that they're actually moving towards the goal of the course. That's what I try to do with these alignment pieces here at the end of each of these pages. Is you can see we have our what we're working on, but the CLO of what we're doing is so that we're making clear and measurable outcomes, which then moving up into the skill standards, that's anything related to outcomes is skill standard B. And then I feel like we're analyzing right now together and thinking critically about how those relate to each other. Let's go to this question. This one is a little less specific to an objective, but how long has it been since you reviewed the module objectives for your course? This kind of relates to that story I was talking earlier. If that instructor hasn't looked at their module objectives for a while, they might not even realize that it says that they're going to be using a material in the course that they aren't going to be using it.
Well, I'm redesigning all of my courses, so I'm currently looking at most of them,
Well,
which is
yeah,
nice.
I mean, that kind of comes with the territory.
Yes.
So recently,
Yeah. Yeah.
yesterday.
But yeah, I actually really like the next question.
Let's look at it. Who are
Yeah.
your module level objectives currently designed to serve? The institution, the department, or the students?
Well, I would also argue that for a lot of the programs at Clover Park, it's also designed to serve industry,
Mm,
which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, even going a level further. And I don't think that, I think it should be the students. That's what I do try when I'm writing mine to, um, to say, well, what do I need the students to be able to do? And really what that means is, what does industry need them to be able to do?
exactly. Yeah. That was something that on um In and Out Day I played a video. I don't know if y'all remember it. I played a video by created by Sean Gary and Chris Felch, where they uh talked about in when they were going through and looking at their course learning outcomes. Well, I think they were looking at the program learning outcomes in the video, but first looking at what industry is what's needed to succeed in industry, and then working down from there. That I don't know. It doesn't say that here. And then I think maybe it's implied that you're thinking about the students in the sense that if the students need to have those skills to succeed in industry. But yeah, I think bringing that up is an important consideration, especially when answering this question. So here's this next question is something that if you run through our college-wide learning outcomes, you'll see a lot of focus here on students from diverse backgrounds, historically underrepresented groups. What kind of adjustments might be necessary in your course design to make sure that this group of people can readily relate to and engage with these objectives. Just looking at this and reading this, I'm thinking about inclusive language, making it so that the objectives are not so advanced or like difficult to understand. Is that complicated? I don't know. I can't think of the right verb, or the right adjective. But I'm curious for the people in the group, if you consider that, how you consider that, and if you've made any changes to whether it was in the past, you looked at an objective and you said, this objective doesn't seem accessible to everyone.
Sometimes as I'm reading like my weekly module, the overview for the week, I'll ask students if that's clear and get feedback right then. And or even an assignment as we go through it, and I will make changes right then and there based on their feedback and say, well, this isn't quite clear. Maybe if I put this word, would that be better? And, so that's kind of how I do it. I do it right there on the spot. I just edit.
I love that. That's you're going straight from the source. Because that, I mean, that's your audience. Those are the people that need to be able to understand it, and they're letting you know directly that this would be better for them. So I like that, Poppy. Has anybody else ever done that? Where you sit down and kind of, I know it's, well, I won't say it's common practice. I don't know how many instructors do this, but I know a lot of instructors will go through their syllabus and they'll get to that section where it's the PLOs and CLOs. I'm wondering how many people like really check in with their students and say like, do y'all know what this means? Because I can foresee that some instructors are like, okay, I need to go over my syllabus with the students, and so I'm just gonna, steamroll them with, this is what we're gonna be doing in this course. This is part of the program learning outcomes, and we're gonna be doing this, and then da, 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 and then on to the next one, and there's no real discussion about it.
I try to have open dialogue a lot. I mean, it seems I don't know that I have ever really thought about it in terms of diverse backgrounds, but I do try to have an open dialogue with the students about like, hey, I'm trying this out. If it doesn't go well, I might adjust the grading strategy or have I actually did this yesterday. I tried out a virtual learning thing that had some like a 5-point extra credit survey for how did that, I mean, did you like it? Did it fit with what we're learning? And so the feedback already has been, this was beyond where I'm at right now. And, but I've also told them like, I want I want your honest feedback about these things. So, I think that I've built that trust so far with this group that started in July, so that they know that there's no penalty for saying, I hated that. or and then also telling me why, like I didn't like that because of this. So
Oh yeah,
I
sure. If
yeah,
somebody's going to say that they hate something, they better back it
yeah,
up.
exactly. But I hope that they would say, hey, that really that was not at a that didn't use language at a level that I am currently capable of understanding in the program, or that it didn't I didn't feel like that was a good representation of whatever group. So I think that they trust me to take that into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I hope that people can find that level of comfort where a student could say this sucks because but I wanted to piggyback off that and say that I don't know if you set up classroom norms at the beginning where you explicitly said that. It sounds like you told your students that it's okay to let you know if something is not hitting right. Um, I think this kind of goes back to classroom management. Um, but having that discussion at the beginning of the either at the beginning of the cohort if they're, going through multiple classes with you, but at least at the beginning of a course where you're saying that we're establishing some ground rules and creating it with the students, I think is an effective strategy for getting that level of comfort with the students. I don't know if that made any sense. I had something I wanted to say, but it sounded like word salad. I'm going to go to the next one here. How can you help students more easily grasp the meaning of and connect to your module level objectives? I mean, I think what Tracy was saying about just asking them if they understand it. But if anybody else has anything else they wanted to add.
I mean, I think my answer to this question sort of ties in with some of the other, like the next one and maybe the previous one. Like, and I think this is true of like students don't know what they don't yet know, right?
Mhm.
And that's exactly what outcomes and objectives are. This is what you will be
Mhm.
learning. So it's sort of sometimes I think it's hard to ask students, does this make sense? When as much as we try to avoid use of like industry specific jargon, sometimes that's necessary to write the outcome that is needed, right?
That's
Um,
true.
uh, I mean, we can have a student-friendly version, right? That breaks down that jargon a little bit, but maybe sort of like at the end, returning back to, and it's not something that I do, um, usually because it's just like don't have the time to do so, but returning back to the objectives and say, okay, these are the objectives, or in the case of course learning outcomes, these are the CLOs. Do you feel like you understand what we're going for?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong with if it is something that they don't understand at the beginning, but it's something that you plan on explaining by the end. I like that idea of having the check-in at the end. And even like if it's a time thing, maybe making it an exit ticket, like here is here is what we hoped to accomplish today. I'm the objective of this time that we had in this lesson was for you to learn what this is. Do you feel like you've learned what this is? And then like giving that to them at the end and then having them pass that in um, will, help let you know what your students know or not. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I do think that there are, some things that you have to leave in because that's just the nature of, what you're going to learn. I mean, hopefully the students are learning new things throughout your throughout your course. And maybe if you say the objectives at the beginning and you say, "Oh, does anybody know what this is?" and nobody raises their hand and you say, "Well, that's what we're going to be doing today." So you will, by the end of the class, know what this is.
I just wanted to add, and because I really like that, Derek, and I don't always do that either, but I do try to point out to them when they're especially if it's from a class that was a couple like 2 quarters ago and now they're learning about something that's related to it. I do try to point that out to them. It's like that what you're talking about, we learned that 2 quarters ago and now you're using it. And I try
Mhm.
like that you came up with that, you connected that. So I do try to at least tie it in that way.
It and pointing that out is, I think, really rewarding for the students. Like, hey, you did learn this. Um, it shows that they're growing and
Mhm.
that can put them in a better mindset. I think the growth mindset or whatnot of just constantly growing. Had that happen yesterday, I think it was, with my bachelor students. Like we were talking about a concept. I'm like, well, we talked about this in ecology, which is a 100 level course. And they're like, well, I don't remember that, but I watched this YouTube video. I'm like, oh man, the students are learning off of YouTube, not me. But no, they still knew exactly what counter shading was and why it was important. And I'm like, okay, maybe they remember it because of a YouTube video that they watched, but we definitely covered that concept and they're still able to apply it. So anyway,
You got to be like, what's that YouTube video? I
right.
need I need to
I
put
am
that
not
YouTube video back in the
in the modules. Yeah, no, I am not at all opposed to they showed me a couple that were um what is it? Insane factor. It's there's this guy that does like shorter 2 or 3 minute videos about like insane facts about uh like mysid shrimp or about different animals. And I would use more of them, but the language is not always friendly. Uh,
No, just slap a NSFW tag on it and say,
right, right.
watch at your own.
Yeah, watch at your own risk. But anyway, yeah, I it is really important to point out the students when they've learned because we know that some students lack confidence or
Oh yeah.
self-recognition that they've learned.
Well,
So,
yeah, because the students they're like got so many things that's coming in, and like they sometimes feel overwhelmed. And I think, yeah, pointing it out, that's a great practice. I'm gonna stop the questions here, but there are, I think we made it about halfway through. Hopefully you all got some ideas about what you can put for the top section, and then you know, take another however long it takes to finish the rest. This is the assignment for this week, is to just go through and reflect on these questions. Next week, we will be going into more specifics about what we can do with the objectives and how we can make sure that the objectives and the outcomes are working together well. I want to thank you all for taking the time to meet here today. I think this time is you know, you are the people who make this time meaningful and special. So thank you all for coming here on this Friday, and I hope to see you all again next Friday.
Are you giving us the answer to the
Oh,
quiz?
the code. Y'all been waiting for the code. Y'all got to tell me. I forgot. I completely forgot about the code this time. I'm gonna put it into the chat just so that you can get it and go, because it's almost 2. Hold on, let me find out what the code is. Y'all over here like, stop talking. Give me the code. I got you. Sorry. The code today. Oh, y'all don't love this one.
Why? Mine's
Oh no, hold on. Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. I don't think I'll ever learn that I need to change it off of multiple choice. Fill in the blank, update question. Make sure you refresh the quiz right there.
it's still giving me. Why is it?